Well, welcome all. My name is Gina Ramsey. I'm the owner and founder of Pink Dog Digital. We are a full service digital marketing company. And with us today is Coral Norman, our director of digital media at Pink Dog, and Tanya Brown from CPG Incorporated. We're super excited to have her with us today to talk about a part of online reputation management that a lot of businesses don't consider. So let's begin. I don't want to be a talking head. Feel free to jump in with questions and we will answer them as we can. Let's start here. Drop in the chat and let us know when the last time that you looked up your own business online. And not just your website, your reviews, your Glassdoor page, your Indeed listing, your Better Business Bureau listing, things that people look at when you're not in the room. We know that some people are doing this daily and others may have not done it at all. I think that you would be surprised when you look yourself up what you find. And we definitely suggest that you look at this frequently. I try and check it once a week. You never know what is out there. When you're thinking about online reputation management, it isn't just for customers anymore. It's about attracting all the right people, including employees. So for years, ORM, online reputation management, meant Google reviews, the star ratings on all the platforms, and maybe some social monitoring. But now it also impacts hiring. And I think in this world where it's increasingly more difficult to find great people, you really want to make sure that you look like a great employer. We want to make sure you are a really great employer. So Coral, can you talk a little bit about when employer reputation became a part of ORM?
Yeah, definitely. So Glassdoor and Indeed are really the two big ones that have turned it into more of an employee reputation platform on top of, just your online reputation. So if we're looking at Glassdoor, it launched in 2008, but it really didn't take off until sometime between 2010 and 2015, which is when people started to really start leaving reviews on Glassdoor and Indeed based on their employers. And I know for a fact a lot of people were looking into it, in the late 2000 teens, somewhere in there. It's a really weird way to look at that, but like 2018, 2017, and around there. It was a very popular platform as far as Indeed and Glassdoor go to make sure that you're looking up who you're working for before you actually get there. If we're being honest, though, reputation management has always been a thing for employers because people are always going to ask others their opinions of a business that they're looking into. It's just become a lot more visible in the last couple of years because of platforms like Indeed, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, where people can actually get a lot of information about the employers before they ever even set up a call, apply, go any further in that kind of recruiting process. In fact, research shows us that about 86% of job seekers will research a company before they apply, and nearly 70% said they would reject a job offer with a company that has a poor reputation on platforms like Indeed and Glassdoor. So it's very important that you're looking at those and making sure that you know what people are saying about you and responding properly, which we'll get into as we go.
So it's almost like candidates are researching companies like a consumer that wants to do business with that company, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hiring has become more of a two-way evaluation process. So where it may have used to feel like you need to impress your employer to get a job. It's still true. It's still a thing that obviously happens, but it's just as important on the other side where the employer needs to impress the potential employee because people do have options, especially with the gig economy and a lot of people turning to doing freelance work and doing their own type of work so that they don't necessarily have to work with a company that has a poor reputation. So people aren't just asking anymore, can I get this job? They're starting to ask themselves, do I even want this job based on what I'm seeing from current and previous employees? And, people aren't just motivated by salaries anymore either. They want good cultures. They want to know that the place that they're at, they feel safe and comfortable and like they're a part of a team and that they're able to grow. You won't be surprised either to hear that AI has a lot to do with the pivot as well, because people are able to get a lot more information in one place than they ever have before. So it's not like they have to go individually to Indeed, Glassdoor, LinkedIn. They can type in ChatGPT or Claude or whichever one they prefer. Tell me about this employer's reputation as far as employees go, and it's going to pull up reviews, social conversations, cultural pages, employee feedback, all of the things into one place so that people are finding it easier than ever right now to be able to look at that and make a decision on whether or not that's somewhere that they want to be. So your business needs to not only have those good reviews, but it needs to be highly visible in a wide variety of places from both customers and clients as well as employees, so that these potential employees kind of know what they're getting into.
So how much do the reviews actually matter? And I say this because I have so many clients from the customer side, but I guess it applies to employees as well, that say the only people that ever give reviews are the people that are unhappy. So how much weight do reviews actually carry?
I'm going to say that it used to feel like it was just people that were unhappy. But I feel like the more people are online, the more often you get people providing reviews now, especially because there are so many different ORM type services where they will allow you to send out requesting a review, whether that is on Glassdoor or wherever. I know I've worked for employers in the past that requested that I leave a review on Glassdoor for the company. So you're going to see a lot more of that now. And those reviews are actually going to carry a lot more weight than a lot of businesses, I think, are aware of or that they assume are going to happen. A big part of this is negative perception is going to create hesitation on the part of employees. They're not going to want to be there if the perception is negative, because people care about work-life balance. They care about the culture. They care about the ability to be in a place where they're comfortable, and they assume that any patterns reflect reality. So if they're seeing those patterns over and over again in those reviews with those negative pieces, it's going to affect whether or not people are comfortable, even applying. You're seeing like 70% of job seekers saying they won't even fill out an application if they look and decide that it's not the right place for them, just based on other people's opinions and views of the company. I think this is where Tanya's perspective is going to be really interesting, because she knows a little bit more about what candidates are looking at when they apply. She knows a little bit more about, what they're looking at. So I think this is a good place to kind of chat a little bit with Tanya about what you see from your recruiting perspective.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you all for having me. I really appreciate it. And from the recruiting perspective, you are absolutely 100% correct. People treat jobs the same way that they treat restaurants or hotels, right? If everyone's saying it's terrible, then I'm probably not going to go there. So a candidate will absolutely research before applying. And like you said, they're not going to apply if everyone is saying negative things about the company. So they're looking at the Glassdoor reviews. They're looking at Indeed reviews, leadership reputation, employee LinkedIn activities. You can go to the LinkedIn page of the company now and go to the tab that says people and just see who's hired. If everyone there has a little tab that says open for work, there's a clue right there. And so they look at the social media comments. They're looking at everything. And like you stated, they want that work-life balance. People nowadays are taking lower salaries just to have a work-life balance, because they don't want to get into a position or a job that's stressing them out, that's keeping them away from their families, that's all the time just a headache to go to. They want that balance, and they want, their health and their mental health is important to them. So instead of going to a job that's going to pay you $200,000, they may go to a job that's paying $100,000 just because it has greater reputation, it has great culture, and they're going to enjoy going to it each and every day.
So Tanya, sorry, Coral. When you're talking to candidates, how often do you hear Glassdoor, Indeed, LinkedIn, all the reviews about the companies? Is it pretty much every single person? Is it the younger generation? What are you seeing?
I'm seeing it more so. I do hear it, not a lot from the younger generation, but a lot from the mid to senior level talent. So people going into more management because they have they know they have the experience. They know that they can get anything. They're your A+ candidates. Some of them are your A+ candidates. So they're looking at, I saw concerns about turnover. What do you know about that? Or can you tell me about the leadership stability? Because they don't know why they're going in. They may be going into the position to actually change the culture. Is that what you're looking for? Is that what this position is for? And they just want to know what they're getting into. And like you said, they have more options open to them as opposed to someone who's just entering the workforce. They have bills to pay, student loans to pay. They're just trying to get whatever they need. But a mid to senior level talent, they are definitely in it. And they're looking, they have the choices, and they're looking for that right place to either grow to the next step or retire from. They want to stay there. They want to have that longevity.
Okay. So bad reputation actually impacts whether someone accepts an offer. It's that important is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A great candidate will walk away from offers every day because of the reputation concerns. So again, people, they value their health. They value their mental health. I've walked away from interviews saying, I'm not going to take this job if they offer it to me because of the questions that I asked. And I found that the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing. And even though they try to blow it off, it's like, I don't want to be in that situation because I'm putting myself in a bad situation. And honestly, compensation, because some people think, well, we'll just throw money at the problem. We'll give them a higher salary. We'll give them better benefits. And yes, if you are a C- company because your reputation is out there and it's terrible and you're looking for an A+ candidate, that's hard work and it's expensive work. And yes, you have to build out your package to woo them over. It might be extra PTO. It may be a higher salary. But even then, compensation doesn't always overcome a toxic manager. When you see reviews about micromanagement or burnout, high turnover, or poor leadership, those are all trigger points. And my question is, what are you doing about it? And it's not always the employee is the problem. And when you get that, that's a lack of accountability on the side of the owner or the side of the leadership. And that's an issue right there, because when you're not being held accountable and you're blaming your employees, retention is not an employee problem. Retention is a leadership problem. Toxic culture, that's a leadership problem. It's not an employee problem. So when you're getting feedback from your employees, you need to take that to heart. It's not always, oh, they don't know what I'm talking about. I've been in business for I don't know how many years. And so I'm not going to listen to them. They don't know. They just are tired of doing whatever they're doing. And it's not. It's valuable feedback that you need to take and actually do something with, whether it's changing the management or finding out how employees want their environment to be. But you need to make those efforts to change that environment in order to improve your reputation.
I love that you said that. I come from another company that I felt like the turnover, every time I walked in, somebody else was resigning. And it's exhausting for middle management to have to restaff at that level. And it's demoralizing to the team that stays. It's bad all the way around.
Exactly. It starts to erode the entire team dynamic. And then it also becomes expensive for the business, which is what I don't understand, because it takes on average around $5,000 to $10,000 to hire a new employee. And people just think, oh, I'll just put it out there on Indeed. I'll interview a few people and then I'll hire them. But they don't take into account, the overtime that you're paying other people to make up for that lack of productivity or the vacancy that's there. They don't think about the amount of time that was lost because you have that vacancy. They don't think about all of those things, and that impacts your bottom line. And like you said, that rolls over into your team. They're taking on extra work. They're taking on extra hours. They're not happy now. And that just starts to erode. And next you have more turnover, and it becomes much more expensive. And from a recruiting perspective, it becomes even more expensive because now you're telling me as a recruiter, I need 1, 2, 3 different people, and I need you to fill these positions. And I don't want to fill these positions and put these people into a business that has a terrible culture. It just doesn't feel right. My company is CPG. It stands for Careers, People, and Growth. We want to put people into careers, places where it's either that stepping stone or you're looking to stay and retire. I'm not looking to put somebody into a frying pan where you just burn them out and then they're back saying, I need another job. That's not work. And that's not great. It's not great for that person. And I don't want to come to a company and say, you're terrible, I can't hire for you. But I also don't want to put a candidate in a position and say, this company is horrible. I don't want you there. So it makes it difficult for the recruiter to recruit. And it's also difficult for the company because they're not going to get good people. And it's going to be more and more expensive on both sides.
Yep. I just think about the onboarding time alone. The amount of time and effort it takes to onboard a new employee, to have them leave 6 months later because they're unhappy. It just feels like a treadmill. It
is. And it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. The onboarding time and the time it takes to train and bring them up to par, it's not ideal. And so you need to change what you're doing and how you're doing it, and take that feedback into consideration because it's important. Listen to your employees, because your employees, you're in the, what do they call it? The court of public opinion. That's better than any type of glowing wordsmithing on your website, your glowing brochures, what you're putting out there. People will take a stranger's advice or a stranger's report. What do you call it? Review. They will take a stranger's review and put that as gold versus your glowing words of what you have to say about your company and what you're doing. And so they'll take a stranger because the stranger is in there and they've lived the life as the employee. And so you can talk about how great your culture is. You can talk about how wonderful it is to be in business, how great it is and your employees love it. But if your employees are saying something different, that's who people are listening to.
Well, Coral's been with me for 12 years, so I think I might be doing something right.
I think you are 100% doing something right.
Coral, I'm sorry, Tanya. I was just going to
say, anytime you see an employee that
conversation. Coral.
Sorry, I was hearing both of you at the same time, and then my microphone didn't want to turn on. Can you repeat yourself, please, Gina?
I just said, having, been at good companies and bad companies, and I hope because you've been with me for 12 years, you think this is a good company. Do you have any, questions or comments for Tanya? I think it's from an employee's perspective, it's an interesting pivot than how I think about it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I've been part of these companies at times that have these Glassdoor reviews and things that I know the employer doesn't necessarily feel are fair. But then you go in and look at it from a perspective of, okay, I've been an employee, I've had feet on the ground, and I can vouch for the fact that what other people are saying is true. And it's a tough place to be in a company too, especially in middle management, because I've pretty much always worked, somewhere in middle management where I am consistently hiring, consistently trying to keep a team together and working for a team where you're seeing that employee feedback that's consistently, the middle management's doing great, but at the top it's not good, and nobody wants to work in an environment like that. So it's one of those things where, yeah, I've definitely seen it play out. And I will tell you that after having that experience in one of the companies that I worked for, I'm very careful now. If I'm looking at, in the past, I'm not going anywhere here at any point. I'm very happy where I'm at now. Obviously, things are going well. It's been 12 years, but, in the past, I have found that I do spend a lot more time on Glassdoor and on Indeed and looking at that kind of thing, because I don't want to put myself in a position anymore where I'm going to be in a culture that doesn't fit me, or I'm going to be miserable working there. And I, having experienced that, it's rough. So I think it's very important to make sure that you're managing this and figuring out how to attract those A+ candidates by making sure that you have the information out there that you need. So all that being said, like, what are the top things that people are looking for in those reviews as far as the positive pieces, so that you can kind of, if employers are asking people to rate them on Glassdoor or Indeed or whatever that looks like, what are the things that employees are primarily looking for in those reviews?
You're saying, what are employers when they're asking their employees to write reviews for them? What are they looking for?
Well, yeah, when people are looking at companies and trying to decide whether or not they want to be there, what are like the top 3 things that they are looking for in those companies, so that when you have employees writing reviews for their employers, they kind of have a good idea of what, they are looking at, making sure they mention if these things are true. Of course, we want to make sure that these are accurate, but what are the kind of the top 3 things that you see people are looking for when they're looking at these reviews?
Management. And you're correct. Middle management is difficult. I actually did a webinar a couple of weeks ago on the leadership pipeline and how managers are put into positions because they're high performers, but not necessarily trained to actually lead. And there is a gap there because they aren't trained to lead. And it's not necessarily their fault. Of course, anybody will take a promotion into management, but it's the fault of the owner or the directors in order to train these people of how to lead these teams and how to create that culture. But to answer your question, definitely management quality, work-life balance, and growth opportunities. People want to advance. They don't want to just get there, hit that ceiling, and then have to leave. And they're looking for the culture. The culture is so important. They want a healthy culture where they enjoy coming to work every day. So I think those are the main things. As far as stability is concerned, I think it's great that you've worked there for 12 years. That's awesome. It speaks volumes for you, Gina. And that you have a great atmosphere there and a great work culture. But anytime you see longevity, that's a great thing. As far as, but not a lot of people, I know back in the day it was, oh, you jumped from this job. You only worked at this job for 3 years. You only worked at that job for 4 years. And people saw that as a negative. Today it's actually seen more positively in some avenues, just because it shows that you, especially if you moved up throughout, it shows that you moved with purpose and that you moved with the goal of gaining more experience. And if that shows on your resume, that reflects positively on you. But I would have to say, yes, management, work-life balance, growth opportunities, and culture.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So, from the employer perspective, ORM is significant. But I want to talk a little bit about kind of the broader brushstroke here, if we may. When I'm talking to prospects, oftentimes I hear, I don't want to be on social media because I don't want people talking badly. Yeah. I don't want to have a Yelp platform because I don't want people giving me bad reviews. And I find it so curious that if you're that worried about it, is that an internal problem? Is that a you problem, or is that a reviewing problem? And I think it comes from an internal thing, where if you're that worried about what people are going to say about you negatively, what are you doing to earn that reputation? Does that kind of resonate?
Indeed. I would think the exact same thing. I was one of those people, though, who didn't want to start in social media. And then once I did, I was glad I got into it, but it was more of a trolls being on board and hitting you up and saying negative things just because they're just nasty people themselves. That was my concern. But as far as an employer, I agree with you. What are you hiding? And I think people, because social does have that negative, people kind of overlook the positive and the benefits that it does provide. Because even if someone did say something negative, you have a tribe of people. If you were doing really well and your company had that great reputation and your employees were happy, if there was one person who said something negative, that tribe of people who support you would come in and say, no, it's not like that. No, this is wrong. You're just evil. So you always have that support if you have that tribe and that great reputation with your employees. But I'd have to agree with you. What are you hiding and what's wrong with it? How do you go about encouraging them to get on?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's important for businesses to use feedback constructively. You know, a good company, an average company will look at those reviews and say that the person that was reviewing, whether it's an employee or a consumer, they were just a problem. But I think it's important to look at what that feedback is and how can I make things change to make this a better place to work, a better place to do business. And I think that really separates average companies from really good companies. And how do you look at good companies, look at what they do when they get negative reviews. We've got clients that we're managing their ORM, mm-hmm. and when they get a bad review, it's like somebody told them their kid was ugly. They take it really personally and want to fix it, do something about it. And then I've got other people that just get angry and want to respond back nasty. And
right.
What does a good public response look like? And I think part of this is that, you use that review, whether it is good or bad, to keep doing more of what you're doing well. And how do you figure out how to change what you may not be doing as well? Coral, you're front line with these reviews and with the clients. And do you have some thoughts?
Yeah. So I think a good review or a good response, honestly, typically looks like acknowledgement of the issue, if it is actually an issue. So acknowledging that something, that somebody is upset, acknowledging that first, and then discussing, not discussing anything sensitive online in that response, but instead you acknowledge that the person is upset. You say, we hear you, we understand your frustrations. Let's see if we can have a conversation and figure out, what this looks like. So it is basically, you want to respond, you want to acknowledge, and you want to make sure that you are offering a resolution, essentially. Because sometimes what that looks like is the person's going to take the review down. They're going to edit the review, whatever that may look like. But you always want to offer that opportunity for a resolution offline, and you always want to respond. People aren't necessarily looking for perfection, but they are looking for a company's responsiveness, and they are looking for a company to be authentic. I mean, authenticity is a thing you will see number one across the board when we're looking at anything online right now, especially with the rise of AI, because people want to know that there is a person behind there. They want to know that somebody is actually seeing these, they are answering these, and they are making, changes. And then if it does turn out to be something that is not unfounded, if it turns out to be an issue, you need to look internally and kind of figure out where that's coming from. But that's kind of what I see on my end. But Tanya, did you have any feedback there too?
No, I agree 100%. A response is, I even look for those in just, as we stated, restaurant reviews. It's like, well, how did someone respond back to it? Did they respond? And then it was, how did they respond? Did they respond back negatively? Were they combative? It makes a difference how you respond. But I had one other point, but I just lost it. I apologize.
It's all right. We got plenty of time. We'll come back. You can come back to it. You know, it's interesting. I get clients who just want to get super defensive. They want to fire back. They want to, you know, get in a fight, essentially. Yeah. And I remember years ago, there was a bakery in Scottsdale, Arizona. My in-laws live there. And they literally just railed on people that gave them negative reviews. And within days, their business had blown up and they closed the doors because they didn't respond properly. Yep. You know, I always tell my clients, if you get a bad review, stop, breathe, get up and walk around for a minute, and then pick up the phone and call me, because I'm not emotionally invested the way that people are in their companies. Like I said, it's like saying your kid's ugly or kicking your dog. People get really upset. So as we talk a little bit about ORM in general, and I mean on both sides of the coin, both from the customer and from the employee perspective, what are we monitoring? How often are we monitoring it? What are we looking for? Are we seeing patterns? Let's start there, but then I want to go a little bit different direction shortly.
Okay. I also want to, point out here, if you all have any questions at all, please feel free to pop in and ask them while we're at this too, because I know that this is kind of a sensitive area for a lot of people, and this is an open forum to ask some of those tough questions. So please feel free to do that as well. But the places that businesses really need to be regularly monitoring are for, ORM specifically, but a lot for employee ORM is going to be Indeed, Glassdoor, Yelp, Google reviews, and then social media is also a really good spot. I recommend using a platform that allows you to see all of your mentions in social media. We use a platform called Heyorka, like the whale. I love Heyorka. They're great for scheduling social media posts, but they also give us a spot where we can see any mention that comes through for any of our clients and for ourselves, so that we're able to easily monitor that, which is great on social channels. I love being able to see that in one spot. And then the other thing is, making sure that you are seeing those, at least as Gina pointed out, you want to be Googling yourself at least once a week. But a lot of these, there are also other platforms that allow you to see and connect to all of your review sites. And I will say that you want to be you want a profile on all of your review sites that you own. So not only those are going to pop up no matter what. Google's going to create them. Yahoo's going to create them. Bing is going to create them. You are going to be everywhere across the board, whether you want to be or not. So the first thing you want to do is making sure that you're claiming those profiles, those employer profiles, so that you are able to go in there and respond to those reviews in a professional manner from a professional account. And then you want to connect those to a platform that allows you to get all of the reviews in one spot and notify you immediately. So if you have a review come through, it comes to your email, you see it, you check it out, you respond to it within 24 hours. As Gina mentioned, if it's a negative review, take a beat, take a breath, call someone else who can help you. But, make sure that you're responding within 24 hours or so. And, Google reviews are always going to be top of the list. But once you're moving down, Glassdoor, Indeed, LinkedIn, everywhere else there, you want to take a look at too. And you want to make sure that you're consistently monitoring those.
So I'm going to jump deeply into geek speak here. And I apologize if I lose anyone, but this is critical. Sorry, my dog has decided to join us on the webinar today. He's right here. When you Google yourself and all of those review platforms come up, particularly with the negative reviews, if you've got a 2-star or 3-star, whatever, please do not click on that link in the search engine results page. Every time you click a link like that, you are signaling to Google that is a good link. And what that is going to do is ensure that link stays on the top of that search engine results page. One caveat here is all of that is subject to change based on the rollout that Google made yesterday on how their search engine results pages are going to look. But currently, in the current environment, the more signal you give to Google that something is a good answer, the more often that is going to show up. So if you do have a negative review and you do want to see what it says and you do want to respond to it, log into the platform. Don't click the link. Does that make sense? I realize that is going down an SEO rabbit hole, but the reality is that online reputation management directly impacts search engine optimization and where you appear in search. So don't click the link. Please don't click the link. Please, please, please don't click the link.
If you take anything from this today, take away Gina's don't click the link.
Yeah. The other thing that I will say is I agree with Coral 100%. If you've got a profile out there, claim it for several reasons. Number one, it's already out there, so you might as well manage the narrative. Number two, if you don't claim it, you're not going to get reports back on what's going on there if people are reviewing you. And number three, your competitors can claim it. And you don't want somebody else defensively owning your profiles. So when you get approached by Clutch and you get approached by whoever, go ahead and claim and complete that profile to the best of your ability, ensuring that the name, address, and phone number on that profile matches all the other name, addresses, and phone numbers on all the other profiles and your website. The consistency of name, address, and phone number across platforms is another ranking signal when it comes to Google, when it comes to ORM or SEO, all the initials.
All the acronyms.
The one that scares me is Yelp, for a variety of reasons. I could do an entire webinar on Yelp, but I will not give them that forum here. If there is not a Yelp platform out there, I personally would not fill it out. There's just too many things about Yelp that frighten me to encourage a client to set up a profile on Yelp. If they already set one up, you got to go claim it. But if you're not seeing one out there, I'm not poking that bear. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fair.
We can talk more about Yelp another time, but I'm not doing it. So
could I add just one little
course.
thing? Because I see on Indeed and I'm on Glassdoor and I see those things all the time. But what I don't see are responses. So I think people are more geared toward Google and maybe possibly, I don't even want to mention Yelp now, but they're possibly geared more toward the Google reviews, but their reviews are like sour sometimes on those platforms. So they can respond to those employee comments. And they should.
Yeah. Yep. And that was my next question for Coral was how often, but I will address Yelp because that is a can of worms that I really don't like opening. But oftentimes on a Yelp profile, you will only see negative reviews because Yelp has filtered your positive reviews. And there is a way to find those filtered reviews in your profile, but people have to know that it's there and they have to know to go look for it. Yelp will filter a review if they suspect that you've asked for a review. They don't have to have proof positive. If they suspect you've asked for reviews, they can and will filter those reviews. So that is one of the reasons I steer clients away from Yelp, because oftentimes it is just a negative representation of their business that is controlled by Yelp, not controlled organically like Google or some of the other platforms.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Idea.
Yeah, if you look in your profile, I haven't looked in a long time, but in the bottom left-hand corner, there's a little tiny line that says filtered reviews. And when you click it open, it opens a whole bunch of reviews that are not part of your ABC rating on Yelp.
Wow.
And to your point, answering, Coral could speak to this better, answering every review as soon as it comes in from every platform, whether it's a positive review or a negative review, we tell our clients, get on there and thank them. Coral, you could talk a little bit more about this than I can because you're dealing with these reviews more often.
Yeah, it's important to get in there and to say thank you and to acknowledge every review. And actually, Gina does a great job of this on our reviews. She makes sure that anytime we have a review come in, whether it is positive or negative, it is always something that is responded to within 24 hours. And that way people know that we're here, we're responsive, we're reaching out, we are answering questions, we are making sure that our clients know that we're available. So I think that's critical. And it's critical for prospects too, when they look you up and see that, oh, they are responding to reviews. So they see what's going out there. And you want to make sure that people know that you're seeing what they're saying, you're seeing the chatter online about your company, and that you are responding appropriately. So I think those are kind of the two most important things, is to always see it and respond. People want to see that you're there. They want to see that you care. They want to see that you're doing something. So, and I think it's also important, as Tanya talked about a lot, you want to do something about that too. You want to look internally. You want to take some time to figure out what's going on within your company that might be causing these issues to begin with, and see if there's a way that you can fix it. And then, maybe at that point you start a campaign to get more Glassdoor reviews from people who are happy within your company. You want that authenticity, because otherwise your turnover is going to be really heavy. Like I mentioned, I've worked for companies before that encouraged Glassdoor reviews, but they had to be positive Glassdoor reviews. The company that I worked for at the time was not a company that I would typically want to leave a positive Glassdoor review for. However, because we kind of were pushed into it, a lot of us did it. And then you look on the back end and people come in based on those positive Glassdoor reviews. Within 3 months, they recognize that the reviews were absolute crap and they're gone. You get a turnover. So it's important that if you are encouraging your employees to review on Glassdoor, you want their authentic responses, and you want to make sure that you're setting your company up in a way that's going to give you authentic responses that are positive. So I think that's kind of, critical there.
Yeah. And I would also say, you want to be honest. You want your people to be honest. If you are asking for reviews, don't compensate people for good reviews. Don't threaten people if they leave a bad review. Check your platform. We use a tool called Nice Job that allows us to solicit reviews from platforms that allow the solicitation of reviews. So as I said, you can't ask for reviews for Yelp. You will get those reviews will be filtered. But we use a platform that use only the allowable platforms. Sorry, I've said that 27 times. I apologize. Not enough caffeine today, I guess. To go out and get those reviews from the people that you think are going to be natural brand advocates. We work on campaigns all the time. And kind of as a segue into our last segment, those reviews are critical for your SEO. It's important for your AIO or your AI optimization. So let's talk a little bit about why these reviews are so important in search engine optimization, but also AI. Why is AI leaning so heavily on reviews to have people receive placements in the AI search? Coral, this is all you.
Yeah, and so this is where we get out of the kind of business development piece into a little bit more of how do you make it work for you online? Because that's, so important. Everybody's online. Everybody's using AI right now. It is becoming more and more prevalent in everyday work than ever before. And you want to make sure that the information that the AI is being fed is information that you want it to be fed. So the first things that you want to do is make sure that your website is reflecting the work that you do and your culture. You want to put a culture statement out there. the only online platform that you 100% control the content on is your website. So you start there because that's where AI is going to start pulling from. And it also gives you a place that you control the narrative 100%. Obviously, it's rare to find that anymore. So you want to start with your website. Talk about your culture, talk about your mission, talk about your vision, but make sure that it aligns with what other people are saying and make sure that your business values align with it internally so that when people see that, it is accurate. But the other places that it's going to pull from LinkedIn, it's going to pull from Facebook, it's going to pull from Instagram, it's going to pull from all of those different social platforms, as well as the review platforms. And it's going to use all of that to put together an employee reputation signal that's going to show it. It's going to show a user exactly what they're seeing across the web on all of the different platforms. So it will show the negatives, it will show the positives. And a lot of people who are fluent in AI right now will ask it to show, hey, what are the pros and cons of working at X company? And so what it's going to pull up is, here are the top 3 things that people say positively about the company. Here are the bottom 3 things that people say negatively about the company. And then it's going to have the sources there. So you're going to want to make sure that you are looking across all of those places because it's going to pull all of that into AI and people are going to look for it. So, I mean, you got people that'll look for pros and cons. You have other people that are just going to go in there and say, what is it like to work at XYZ company? Should I work at XYZ company? What is this company's reputation? There's no real way to drill down on exactly what people are asking in AI, especially because, you know, it's so conversational compared to traditional search. But it does give you an opportunity to at least make sure that you have all that information out across the different platforms so that you have as many places as possible to pull positively from into AI. Does that answer the question, or is there a little more?
I think that that's accurate. The other thing that I want to comment on is because AI is so deep, it's going to search other things that you didn't think it was going to search. So be really careful on your social media. If you're an officer of the company, you're named on the company website as an employee of the company, it's going to source that. One of the biggest resources for AI learning is Reddit. If you are on Reddit with a name that can be, and most people mask their names, I get it, but whatever. Some people are not smart and they put their real name out there and then they go post some crazy political rant or whatever. You know, they were taken up by space aliens and teleported or whatever. That is going to be pulled back to the information AI can source about your company. Mm-hmm. So please, please, please be sure that if you are tied personally to your company, you're not doing anything out there in the world, because that gets sourced and it doesn't go away. If you're an employee and you've got open to work and you're still at Pink Dog Digital, that may source when I do that Google search, when I do that AI search, and I'm going to find out that you're trying to find a job. So be real careful in your personal environment. We don't have a lot of time left. I want to offer the opportunity. Do we have any questions in the room? Okay. I have a question for Tanya. What are your thoughts? And I don't know even what's legal, what's not legal. I know a lot of employers require non-disparagement clauses in their employment agreements and their contractor agreements. What are your thoughts about that?
I go back to, and I was actually looking, I had written something down about that also. I disagree with it, and this is a personal opinion, because again, it seems like you're hiding something. I can understand if it's a non-disclosure or something that's confidential and top secret. That's something totally different. But I've had a couple of companies come to me, and they were smaller businesses, and they were asking me, what do you do? How can I stop an employee from speaking bad about my company? And I told them, you need to go speak with a marketer. You need to go speak with a lawyer about that because that's not my forte. But then the question arises, why are they speaking bad about the company? They don't want the company to fall down because this person just goes off on a rant and what have you. But again, to your point, it's responding. It's if they're releasing confidential information, that's a totally different thing. But personally, I don't agree with it because I think you're trying to silence people because, again, you're trying to hide something. Totally different from confidential information just based off of, I just don't want you saying anything bad about the company. You can't speak on your social media about this company. That's something totally different because I think you're trying to silence them, and that's their platform. They can speak whatever they want as long as they're not defaming you. If they're talking about their personal experience of what they've gone through at your company, that's something totally different. If they're just putting you on blast and saying negative things and slandering you, that's something different. And there are avenues for that to handle that.
So that's interesting. That was my next question for Coral. And then we're going to be close to wrapping up. Coral, what happens when I get a bad review from somebody that I've never done business with the person, it's a bot, or it's a disgruntled employee that I fired for just cause, and they're just angry? What do I do?
All right. So the bots and the ones that are not real, report them immediately. That's the first thing you want to do. Report them to Google, and then, respond on there very, very matter of fact, but not, in any way combative or rude. This review is not somebody that we've done business with before. If you have any questions, please reach out to us, and then provide a way to reach out. That is critical. On those responses where it is a disgruntled ex-employee that has been fired, for those responses, you want to be very, very careful, but you also want to respond. Reporting it will not work unless the person is using profanity or is directly kind of targeting somebody within the company and saying things about them that are completely false. That happens, then yes, you absolutely want to report the review immediately, but you also want to respond to it, and you want to respond to it in a way that is, what we talked about earlier. Acknowledge that the person is upset, mention that it is a conversation that needs to be had offline, and then kind of wrap it up calmly. You don't want to put too much information out there, but you want to make it clear that it's a conversation that needs to be had internally and go from there. It's tough when it's a disgruntled ex-employee with somebody that has been fired because you're going to run into issues there every single time. But you want to make sure that you're replying calmly. You want to take a beat, and you want to make sure that you're replying honestly without giving too much information away. So it's kind of and I hate to say this, but it is a case-by-case basis, and it is a matter of being very cautious about what you say, how you put it out there, and working with somebody to kind of workshop it with you to make sure that it is clean and that it is as positive as it can be under the situation.
Yeah, and I think in the case of the employee, it's helpful to consult either your attorney or your HR professional, because you don't want to wind up on top of the bad review. You don't want to get sued for saying something you're not supposed to say in a public forum.
Correct. Yep. It's always good to consult with a professional in those situations to make sure that you're not causing any further issues.
So I also want to point out, and I get this email probably once a month. Can we take this review down? No, we cannot. We have no ability to take a review down. We can't force a platform to take a review down. At best, we can report a review and hope that the platform does the right thing. Is that always going to happen? No. We have a client who had a customer dox one of his employees, and we reported it for 6 months to Google. They never took it down. This poor woman's information, first name, last name, office, is out there in the public domain, and she did nothing wrong. Can't do anything about it. So we just, at some point you need to respond appropriately and walk away because it's not coming down. So in the final 3 minutes, Coral, Tanya, do you have any parting words for the group?
Yeah, I'm going to say if you do one thing after today, if there's one key takeaway from this, other than Gina's, don't press the link. Make sure that you go out and look at your company like a stranger would. Search yourself, search your company, read the reviews, read employee reviews, see what other people are experiencing and saying so that you can appropriately respond and also appropriately make any changes within your company that need to be made. Your reputation isn't just what you say about your business. It is what other people say about your business, especially when you're not in the room. So if you can get yourself into the room by checking all of your different platforms, get yourself into the room so that you can be part of the conversation.
And check it in a regular search as well as AI search, because you may wind up with very different results.
Correct. Yeah.
Tanya, final words and a shameless plug for your business.
I agree 100%. Please take those reviews seriously because they can damage. It can have it makes a difference of the type and quality of candidates that are applying and that you will receive. So, and it can be a lot more expensive having a C candidate that's bringing your business down than it is to just work on the company culture or work on whatever the problem is, respond to those reviews and make it a friendly atmosphere, make it a place where people want to work. And if you need help with that, my shameless plug, CPG Recruitment, we help businesses. We work with businesses to help keep them fully staffed. And if you need help with interview questions or just hiring or just need advice on how to do proper hiring, please feel free to reach out.
Awesome. We will be doing a recording and sending this out to everyone. So if you missed any of it, you'll be able to get caught up. Again, we are Pink Dog Digital. We're here to help you with all of your digital marketing needs, including online reputation management, both from a consumer as well as an employee perspective. Feel free to give us a call for a free consultation at any time. And we will look forward to being here, same time, same station next month. I think our topic is on AI, Coral.
Actually, I know we talked about doing AI, but after AI will be a part of it. After Google's most recent I/O presentation, we need to get in there and talk a little bit about how they're changing search because they are changing search pretty significantly in the upcoming months. And it's something that I think we all need to get ahead of. So it will be on the Google I/O as well as discussing AI and how it's going to affect that.
Awesome. I look forward to it. Thank you all for attending, and we'll see you next month. Take care.
Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.